Hi friends, this is Fani Renders. As developers, we all need to create mock data at some point in our lives. I've created a cool little component called Expando that allows you to create instant data snippets in your favorite text editor. It is similar to Emmet that works with HTML and CSS snippets. For those of you who don't know what Emmet is, I suggest you go check out emmet.io. I've got the Atom editor open, and let me show you what Expando does. So I did mention that Expando creates instant data snippets. So for instance, if you write out anything and you press the key combinations to expand the selection, there are two. The first one being Shift and Enter. It will give you a JSON representation of anything. Now, if you press Control Grave, which is the little squiggly on your keyboard, it will give you the same presentation but in a formatted state. Now, of course, you can do other things like multiple columns that you do using a comma. For instance, you would type something like foo bar with a comma separated and press Control and squiggly again, and it will give you a JSON representation of foo and bar. Okay, so now let's quickly talk about types. Let's say we have a certain type, any string value type. So we can go ahead and type, for instance, string and int and float, for instance. And then when we expand that selection, it will go and give us a random string int and float values. Okay, only having random string int and float JSON isn't really helpful. There are also ways that Expando allows you to create custom labels for your properties of your object. You do this using the colon notation. For instance, let me show you. If you type foo colon string and a comma and a bar colon int, for instance, that will expand to an object with foo and bar properties. Now, the other types of values that are supported, other than the string and ints and floats, are also the custom types. For instance, if I type fname, lname, company, and age, for instance, it will give me an object with a random first name, last name, and company and age. Okay, that just sums up the basic functionality, but there are also other functionality like complex object generation. Now, one can do that by simply using the bracket notation. If we say brackets and add something like email and telephone number into the syntax, we can see when we expand this, we will get a complex object from this. So we now know how easy it is to create the basic functionality like the types and multiple columns. So if we take this specific version and jazz it up a bit, let's add a name to the fname and call lname, for instance, surname. Company and age we'll leave as is because it will infer the name from the type. We'll add contact to the little complex object, and when we generate that, it will give us the JSON representation, which is a typical JSON object that might be reusable. So if we want to work with arrays we use the star operator, which is your shift 8 on your keyboard. Now the asterisk, other words, we wrap it in brackets and we say asterisk 10. Now that denotes an object array of 10 objects in that array. So as you can see, when we expand that, we get a nice random JSON array of people, of person objects in that array. Okay, now speaking about arrays, simple types arrays are denoted using the @ sign. So if we have string, we say @ and then, for instance, value like 10. When we expand that, we'll get a normal, simple type array of strings inside that. Okay, so lastly, let's quickly talk about the kinds of generation it supports. So default, when you don't specify any generator, Expando will generate the normal JSON like we saw previously. So if we have this notation, it will give you the normal JSON presentation. But if we want to specify explicitly, like XML, for instance, we can do just that by using the equals sign. So if we say equals XML, it will give us the same thing but an XML. So the other one it supports, other than JSON and XML, it's also the CSV one. So if we say equals CSV, it will give us a CSV representation of our records. Okay, so there you have it. That was a brief introduction to Expando. This project is currently work in progress. It is available on GitHub, and it is open source. So I accept pull requests. So please go do check it out. And I would love to have feedback on this. Put some comments on this video below, and also please subscribe to my feed. Thank you very much for watching. Cheers.